Good afternoon, welcome back. This next session brings together a great group of leaders. Speaking of that, our session chairs are both leaders in the state of North Dakota. Please welcome Danita Bai from the Triple T, who's an appointee of Governor Burgum and on the Board of Higher Education, currently serving her second term. She's also on the Petroleum Council Board of Directors. Along with her is Kevin Black, the co-founder and president of Creedence Energy Service, who is also appointed by Governor Burgum to the State Board of Higher Education and is also a member of the Petroleum Council, Board of Directors, and the Executive Committee. Danita, Kevin, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. We're thrilled that you joined us here this afternoon for this really important topic of workforce. It's a topic that all of us as industry and community leaders grapple with every day. And I'm thrilled because you're going to hear from some of the brightest minds on this topic. I also recognize that we're in a precarious position, Danita and I. We are the one thing between you and happy hour very shortly. It looks like maybe a few have already found it. But we're glad you're here because I think you're going to learn a great deal. So with that, we'll kick things off right away, and Danita will introduce our first guest.
Thank you. We are so glad you're here, and this is going to be a fun, engaging seminar, workshop, panel that we trust will give tactical insights for you as you go back to your communities. A couple of weeks ago, I was at a meeting in Phoenix where we had their economic development manager there who's involved in global innovation. And she was talking through all the strategies that we know from a state and a community standpoint that we need to consider. And it was the sixth one on the list, which she said was one of the most important: community engagement, community involvement. And so our next speaker is, and I consider him really an expert in that area. Pat, I'm going to say his name, Bertagnolli, there we go. He's the Executive Director of Job Service North Dakota. Prior to joining Job Service, he was the Community Enhancement Director in Watford City, North Dakota, and he worked as an HR for MBI Energy and Power Fields at the peak of the Bakken. And he is a champion at supporting young people on their career paths. So with that, let's welcome Pat.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited to be here and honored to be a part of this event. And I usually like to start out by telling my story. I'm not from North Dakota. I'm from the state of Montana. I spent 22 years with UPS, and I met a lot of great people throughout that journey. One of the folks that I met, his name was Terry Moe, and he was based out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. In 2010, Terry left UPS to go help his hometown with an oil boom, and that hometown was Watford City, North Dakota. In June of 2011, he reached out to me and he said, I need an HR guy, and you're it. I said, thanks, but no thanks. I'm not leaving Montana. I'm not leaving UPS. I'm sure as hell I'm not coming to North Dakota. And he said, do me a favor, come out and take a look at it. You can see how that's ended. I work for the governor now. I will tell you that what got me to come to North Dakota is just the North Dakota nice. When I went to Watford City, it wasn't just the job that got me, it was how that community made me feel. I had a restaurant owner chase after me, and she said, Pat, it was wonderful to meet you. Hope you consider joining our community. We'd love to have you. I tell people to this day, that's what got me. That community made me feel welcome, special, important, needed to want, and sealed the deal for me, and I moved my family to Watford City, North Dakota. Since then, I've literally hired thousands of people who I watched flock from all over the nation to Western North Dakota to pursue the amazing opportunities we have in the state of North Dakota. And I also saw them find the best version of themselves. It was so exhilarating for me. Here I am at the state level because I want to tell the world what I saw. So a little bit about my sponsor here at Job Service North Dakota. We have 3 divisions. We have a workforce division, unemployment insurance division, and labor market information. I want to share just a recap of our state right now. Top 5 occupational groups in our state. You can see those up there. We have 6,540 open jobs in the state of North Dakota. We know that's likely double because people don't list all their jobs. But my favorite part about this slide is that you'll see that of all those jobs, 38.4% require a bachelor's degree or higher. What it doesn't say, 62% don't. You're going to hear a little bit about that today. 62% of the jobs in the state of North Dakota require a 2-year degree or less. And what I'm super enthused about is just how our state has really put some emphasis on the CTE side of things and just great trajectory for our youth. Labor market information, unemployment 2.0, no surprise there. Labor force participation 68.7. We are consistently in the top 3 in the nation for the highest labor force participation rate. Great news. We're perceived as one of the hardest working states in the nation, but unfortunately we just don't have enough people in the state of North Dakota to fill our open jobs. This is a little bit about North Dakota oil industry highlights. Our team at Job Service puts out a 46-page report about oil and gas every month. I encourage you guys to go take a look at that. You'll see in the core counties we show 1,613 jobs, 2,251 in the balance counties. And of those, of the oil and gas jobs, we show, kind of estimate somewhere around 1,000 openings in oil and gas. Those jobs represent occupational groups. There's 23. There's a lot of occupational groups that impact oil and gas. So when I came out of Watford City, I really learned kind of some things that I think are the answer to the test, and it's really about getting back to the fundamentals of what makes us great, and it's aligning our community, schools, and the industry, developing those community partnerships, help with workforce integration, and impact recruiting and retention. I'm going to tell you how I got there. So I was representing oil and gas in the service industry, and I got invited to a meeting to talk about, wouldn't it be great to have a CT center in our community? I didn't have any connections to the school at that time, and I met Justin Johnsrud, an ag teacher over there, and he invited me in for a tour of the school and kind of thumped me over the head, and he said, Pat, I know you're not going to hire truck drivers and mechanics right out of high school, but they're careers in our community, and these students need to know about them. I'm like, what do you want me to do, Justin? And he invited me to the school to sit down with the superintendent, the ag teachers, and the principal, and that led to us participating in a career fair. I will tell you that that day changed my life, and I saw the light in terms of our obligation to make sure that we let our youth understand the great opportunities that are in our state. So from the job service perspective, I will tell you that I certainly understand the importance of connecting our employers and our youth together. We're hosting expos, all that type of stuff. We're super excited to find ways to connect you and our youth to the amazing jobs in the state of North Dakota. We're also working with Department of Public Instruction and CTE. This is our technology at Job Service North Dakota with these booths that we have there and helping them with an apprenticeship expo. We have another one scheduled for November during Apprenticeship Week. Advocating for our industry and our youth. We're working with an organization called Be More Colorful, Career View XR. We can't get every student in the state of North Dakota out to your well site, but what we can do is create an experience around that well site, take it to every kid across the state of North Dakota. This technology is going to allow us to make sure that our kids know about the wonderful jobs that we have here in the state of North Dakota. A little bit about Are You Ready? I love this platform, CTE. We even use it at Job Service North Dakota, but the students, every student in the state of North Dakota has access to this. They're entering information in there. They've got Patrick Manier with Golden Pass Solutions, a former Microsoft guy who's trying to find ways to help spit out the career interest for these students that don't know what they want to do. But what we need in that platform is our employers. So I encourage you to explore Are You Ready? Just go to the website, and I promise you, you're going to have a plethora of experience there with the amount of stuff that's involved there. But we really need you in there so that students have access to you so they can ask questions about the careers that you may have. This is kind of more of a brag slide. T4, Tools, Trades, Torque, and Tech is an organization that's going around the state. Nobody's asking them to do this. They're doing it because they care about our youth. This happened to be in Botno. Some things that we're doing is finding ways to invite legislative representatives. That's Representative Thomas and Anderson, and the day they showed up to that, I will describe their emotion with one word. They were inspired. And I also want to kind of do a shout out to oil and gas because you can probably see some familiar names on that side, sponsor and partner. So let's give those folks a round of applause for investing in our future. So we really have a bright future ahead with the momentum we have. You have a sea of opportunity. You just got to get in the game and get off that bench. I always like to tell this story. When I was in private industry, this is Peyton Morris, originally from Wyoming. At the time, I was hiring 10 people a week, and I partnered with Peyton to help integrate our new employees into the community. So what we did is we had hats made up with the Watford City mascot on those hats, and we invited our employees to go to Peyton's football game. On the bottom of that picture, you'll see Peyton and his mom and dad on either side and the employees. We had a lot more show up. It was at shift change, but we simply called that United We Stand. I tell students around the state of North Dakota, when you get in there, I need you to do work-based learning, and don't assume that that employer or those employees are connected to your community. So when you get in there and you do work-based learning, I want you to invite that employer to your concert, your plays, your games, and help them build that culture that people want to be a part of by helping position them to better support you. I want to brag about a couple of youth that I've had the privilege to work alongside. This is Alexandria Garcia, who has been involved with mental health and advocating about reducing the stigma around mental health. That's where she was in June of last year, representing Vision West, a consortium that represents the energy-producing counties in the state of North Dakota, taking home the title out of Watford City, North Dakota. What makes me proud about this slide is that Alexandria and her family moved from Colorado to western North Dakota to pursue a better life. They found that better life, but they also found a way to make it better for others. If you want to make a difference in this world, welcome to North Dakota. This is Aiden Pelton, also from Watford City. He took home the title at the Education Summit in West Fargo last year, and these kids over in Watford City are part of the solution, getting off the bench, welcoming new people to their community. They hosted 2 cultural food fairs last year to celebrate the 25 countries that are represented in their community. They let those countries toot their horn a little bit and give a taste of their country while educating their community around the beauty that comes with diversity. This is another young lady I just met not too long ago. I spoke to the North Dakota Honor Society, and this young lady came up and said, I don't think I have a future in North Dakota. I said, excuse me, did you hear my presentation? You're not going nowhere. And she sent me, I said, I don't know your story, Susie. Send me your story, and I will connect you to people. And you guys take a look at that slide. This is oil and gas who are recruiting these amazing human beings into our state, like Susie. This summer, she'll be spending her 2nd time at the Naval Academy learning about STEM. I want to retain Susie, so we're gonna run with her and find a way to connect her to greatness in the state of North Dakota by simply giving her a voice to make a difference. I serve on the CTE board for the state of North Dakota, and I have the opportunity to get in front of FBLA, Skills USA, and all that stuff, advocating for these folks to get off the bench, be a part of the solution, help be welcoming to the state of North Dakota so that they have an exceptional experience. So more to come on that. A little bit about job service. We're throwing out some different webinars, work-based learning, pathway to international students, data is power with labor market information, working with schools, the military, all that stuff. I encourage you to go to jobsnd.com and take a look at some of those masterpieces that we have out there. Part of our strategy is knowing that we have term limits coming up, and so how do we quickly educate and upskill folks that are going to be running for that legislature so we can get them to hit the road running when they start. This is General Dorman. He is with the North Dakota National Guard, and he challenged all state agencies to get on board to help North Dakota become the most military-friendly state in the nation. Our team at Job Service, we took an opportunity to write a letter to each of the wing commanders in Minot and Grand Forks. So certainly love for you guys to join us in the journey to help transition these folks into civilian work. But let's give those folks a round of applause for what they're doing to protect our nation and our state. Working as one. In 2023, we held a virtual job fair. We got to sell more than just the job and the organization, working with Parks and Rec, Game and Fish, and the Find the Good Life program. This year, we advertised in 6 states, and we had 23 states show up and 21 countries. People are shopping North Dakota. We just got to turn up the hospitality and showmanship and win them over in choosing North Dakota to pursue. This is just kind of a little stat slide. You can take a look at the data on there. I know some of you aren't listing your jobs with this, and I'm going to tell you I was a customer of Job Service before I came here. But I want you to take a look at the website engagement. We had 4.9 million views last year. And if you want to be visible, I certainly encourage you to join and list your jobs with us. And look for us on social media. We got a lot going on. I got 1 second left here, and I got 10 seconds left of stuff to go. But I wanted to share with you Williams County. They've got 39,000 people. If you look at the total born outside of North Dakota, 55.6%. 21,700 people are not born in North Dakota. Take that to another level. The state of North Dakota, we have 784,000 people here. 296,000 of them were not born in the state of North Dakota, which as an HR guy tells me that we have a network of family, friends, and former neighbors to go after, start nudging. So that might sound a little pie in the sky, which is why I'll show this to you. This is the team that I left in Watford City at the Rough Rider Center. If you look at that picture, 72% of them are not from the state of North Dakota. How'd they get here? Somebody engaged them, somebody invited them, and we all inspired them. Get off the bench, be the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Love the enthusiasm and love the energy, and you managed to get it done just a hair over 10 minutes, so good work. Well, we're really excited to have someone who's a true leader in this industry, who is in the trenches every day and who is dealing with the issues of workforce better and knows more about it than most. We're excited to have Josh Price, the Vice President of U.S. Drilling for Nabors. Nabors has the largest fleet of drilling rigs in the world. They operate in 20 countries, and they currently have about 12,000 employees. So suffice it to say, Josh knows a few things about workforce. So let's learn from Josh on what an incredible worldwide experience he's had and how he can bring that to the Bakken. Let's give Josh a big round of applause.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. Now, I got to say, I've only got 8 minutes to talk about a subject that I could talk about for probably an hour or two. I mean, this is a very important subject and something that is very key to our ability to grow our business and be valuable to our shareholders. So they asked me to talk about recruitment and training, and really what that is about people. We're a drilling contractor. Nabors is the largest drilling contractor in the Bakken. We have the largest market share. And the reason for that is because we have the best people. Some of them are sitting out here in the crowd right now. So, first we got to understand, I got to get our clicker here. We got to understand where our market is and where we're kind of are lifting off from. So, Pat talked about it a little bit. The labor market in North Dakota is very good. It's very tight. Only a 2% unemployment rate. And then you got the surrounding states of Minnesota, Montana, South Dakota, Wyoming. They're all well under the national average of 3.8%. So it's a very tight labor market. And in the past, drilling contractors and oil field services companies, we've always competed amongst ourselves for people. We'd have people going across companies and back and forth, where that doesn't happen anymore. Very rarely. It does sometimes, but very rarely. What we're competing with now is like Amazon and Walmart and others that have caught up to the oil and gas industry in wages. We have historically been a very good wage-paying industry. Somebody coming out of high school can go work on one of our rigs and make $80,000 a year or more. But now Walmart, Amazon, they're catching up. You can go work for Walmart, be a starting truck driver at $100,000, get good benefits. You can go work in a fulfillment facility for Amazon, driving a forklift in a climate-controlled warehouse and make a good wage and get good benefits, good work-life balance. So that's what we're competing with right now. Before I go into some of the things we're doing, I do want to say that the foundation of this for us is a strong oil field services sector. We have to be able to thrive and be successful so that we can continue to pay good wages, we can continue to build careers for our people and have good benefits. So we need to work with our customers to help build that consistency because this boom and bust cycle, it really affects us and our ability to be able to retain people and bring them into the business. It's something that we're going to have to work with our customers hard on. So, but that's the foundation of it. We need a strong, thriving oil field service sector. So who are the people we're trying to recruit today? It's not the generation of before. It's millennials, but for the most part, Gen Z. Some people call them Zoomers. These people are generally born between 1997 and 2012, and they make up the majority of the workforce in the United States now. Them and millennials are the majority of the workforce. Actually, in North Dakota right now, on our rigs, we've got 20 rigs running, and 25% of our employees are Gen Z, and about 33% are millennials. So we got almost 60% are from these generations. So we've shown that we can attract them. We can bring them in. The challenge is to retain them, develop them, grow them so that they can be the leaders of our industry in 15, 20 years or sooner. We have some Gen Zs that are rig managers already. So what are some characteristics of this generation? One, they're highly educated. As a matter of fact, the Gen Z generation is the most educated generation in history. And they're, as many of you know who have kids that are millennials or Gen Z, they're extremely tech literate. They're data literate. They grew up with a phone in their hand. They know, YouTube and TikTok and Instagram like with the back of their head. So they're very data literate. They're empowered. They know that they are the largest sector in the workforce. They know that they're in demand. And then they want to have good jobs. They know the value of a good job. I hear a lot from within the industry that just says, well, this generation won't work. They don't understand the value of hard work. And that's not true. Like I said, we have almost 60% of our workforce is out on the rigs right now, today, as we speak, working and doing the hard work that's required to produce all the 5 billion barrels of oil that we're celebrating today in the Bakken. So they will work, but we have to think differently. We have to adapt to them, because they're not going to adapt to what we think is the ideal worker. We need to adapt to them and change some of the ways that we attract and retain and develop this generation, because they will work for us and they will be loyal. So what are some things that we can do to keep them? So again, I don't have a whole lot of time, so I could really go through these and spend a lot of time on these, because there's a lot of different things that we need to do. But first and foremost, we need to promote our industry better. I don't think we've done a good job promoting our industry and letting people know and really explaining to people why our industry is so important and so vital for the economy and our energy security. So that's number one. We've got to do that. We have to continue doing that. Number two is we got to develop new talent pools. We're not going to get all of our needs and everything off the farm. We're not getting kids off the farm anymore. We need to get kids off the couch from the Xbox and bring them out here and get them into work. So we need to develop new talent pools. We need to, like Pat was talking about, really engage with the community and universities and technical schools, separating veterans organizations, things like that. But we need to do more of that. Regional and localized. We need to hire more local as much as we can. That's something we're really proud of here in the Bakken. We've got 70% of our workforce is from the surrounding states, North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana. 70% of our workforce is. 30% of that is actually from North Dakota. So to me, that's a big part of our success, is that we have a highly local workforce. Saying that, we also represent 40 other states that come up here and work on a 2-week rotation. So if we got the 5 surrounding states and 40 other states, we represent 45 states that actually come up here and work on our rigs. We've actually got 3 guys that come up here from Florida every 2 weeks to work. Why somebody from Florida would want to come up here in January and February, I'm not sure, but they keep coming. And then there's, the onboarding. We need to do a better job of onboarding our employees. We have people come out to the rig sometimes, and they'll stay for about a day, and then they'll leave. And to me, that's a failure on our part. And then let me go through here, because I want to touch on one thing really quick. So I personally believe one of the most important parts of developing and retaining a good workforce is our leadership on the rigs. We have to build a good culture and good teams on our rigs. So we created what we're calling Rig Lead, or Nabors University, and this is going to be a leadership course that all of our rig managers in the U.S. are going to take. It's not a one-time, you come in, do 2 days of course, and then you check that box, and then you go. It's going to be about an 18 to 22-month process where they'll come in, they'll have 3 in-person sessions over that time period, and then in between those sessions, they'll actually have check-ins, scheduled check-ins with a coach, a leadership coach, and their superintendent. So this is a big investment that we're putting into our leaders, but it's an investment that I truly, truly believe will pay off in the future. So I've got 38 seconds to close. So what I'd like to say is, you know, the generation of today, I think just like any generation, they want to join an organization that has meaning, that has a purpose, that engages with the community, and they will work hard for you, and they will be loyal to you. But we have to change our mindset and adapt to them, because they're not going to adapt to us. And lastly, we need to stay on our toes and keep abreast of the market, because Gen Z in 5 years, they're going to be gone. And then you got Generation Alpha coming in, and one of my kids is in Generation Alpha, and that's something that's a whole nother story that we can talk about later. But yeah, thank you for having me. Like I said, I know I touched on that really quick, but if there's anything anybody wants to talk about after this in more detail, I'm happy to. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh. As author of Millennials Matter, Proven Strategies for Building Your Next Gen Leader, it's good to see the practical implementation and what that looks like on the workforce. So, so I grew up on the Triple T Ranch in Stanley, and then lived in Minnesota for 30 years and came back to the new North Dakota about 10 years ago. And that first week that I was back, one of the activities I did was to stop in and visit the principal. And I asked him, what are some of the issues that you're dealing with here in Stanley? And the first thing that he said was drugs and alcohol. And then I said, well, what's the second thing? And he said, apathy. I'm going, apathy? What do you mean? Here we are. We live in a superpower state that is shifting and changing the global landscape. And our children don't have a vision for the future. So it's with that, I'm excited to introduce our next speaker, Steve Holen, Superintendent of McKenzie County Public Schools. And Steve has managed one of the fastest growing schools in the country throughout the Bakken boom. And now he's taking training and education with to the next level with the opening of the Bakken Area Skills Center. So let's welcome Steve. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here this afternoon. I feel like it's one of those final moments that we've been talking about the Bakken Area Skills Center for quite a few years, and have been very generous with the Petroleum Council to get us in front of many industry professionals to talk about this opportunity, this vision that started many years ago, and to come before you today and show you a finished product. That we have a facility, we have a regional component of it that has started, and we're really excited about what we've seen so far and the partnerships that we've started to develop. There's just so many opportunities that are available in front of us, and trying to capture those and move forward at the same time. So we're very excited that we'd have our grand opening on the 16th of April. The governor was there. We had a nice crowd, as you can see from the pictures. A lot of community support for this facility. We've had a number of projects in McKenzie County over the last dozen years, and I would say that this has probably been the most well-received and anticipated of any of our facilities. And it's really a reflection on the need, the perceived need, and the community need, and the multifaceted component of what the Skills Center is going to develop. So we're excited about it. Our community was excited, and we're ready to move forward. The facility itself, we're about a 40,000 square foot facility. We moved in January 15th of 2024 with classes. It was about a year and a half construction. It's modular in shape, 4 larger bays, also some classroom spaces. It was designed to be expanded upon. And the site of itself is kind of a key component for the building. There are 5 1-acre lots that are adjacent to it for equipment, hands-on experiences with the students, which is really what we wanted to happen. And we're right next to the high school, so we're adjacent for our students to walk over for classes, also utilize the Rough Rider Center for trainings and so forth. So we're excited again how it was put together to be adaptable and flexible over time, which we think is the key to any kind of building here that's talking about workforce needs at any high level. So a few pictures from the inside of our facility that we're very proud of. We can see our entry there. The main meeting space up above, we did want to make sure this was accommodating for any of our partners or otherwise. We hope that they have trainings in this facility. We want to make sure they utilize that for meetings or anything that might be coordinated with it. Again, this was a K-12 project, that's how it was birthed, but it is really, that was only one component of what this building was going to do. We want to see post-secondary, we want to see adult ed, we want to see workforce training in this facility, and that's what the design was. So hopefully this building is going to maximize that capacity, and our partners are going to find it to meet their needs. So some of the photos of the spaces as well. On the left-hand side, you can see automation. That's a robotic arm. Northrop Gunham donated that arm. We've had some good experiences with our automation students trying to work with it and use it as kind of a capstone experience for those students. Automation has been one of our leaders coming out of the gate as far as what we're offering for curriculum. The feasibility study done by McKenzie County several years ago found automation, industrial automation, to be one of the key areas that we needed to fill our workforce needs in McKenzie County. So our answer to that was to reach out to partners like OneOak, Cord, and to develop curriculum, find equipment, and begin to develop that pathway. We're excited as far as being what we believe the only K-12 automation pathway in the state of North Dakota right now. So we're hoping we're leading that pathway and addressing those needs moving forward. Our other spaces are building trades, welding. We also have auto, diesel, mechanical as well. Health careers is a big component in our area, a very large need, again, of that feasibility study that was done. One of the 3 major areas was health careers. We are coordinating with our local hospital. We have health screenings. Our local hospital even wants to take it further and have basically a drop-in clinic once a week in this facility to provide some community support and get some hands-on experiences for our students. So again, that's an example of what we really wanted to do with this facility in the win-win scenario, working with our partners. This space, a little unique again with the overall vision of this space, called the Innovation Studio. There's equipment that we have as far as our high-tech consortium, the vinyl printers, 3D scanners, that all the hands-on, quote, makerspace equipment for that high school level student. The way it was designed in the building was to provide access hopefully to the public. We're trying to also use the model that we can get members of our community in to get their hands on this equipment and just get exposed to the building in any capacity that we can. So we're excited about having all aspects of, when we talk about STEM, we talk about workforce, all those integrated into one space. So we're excited to see where this will go. As far as, again, the regional aspect, you get a look at what the schools are involved in this center. Obviously, it is very regional in nature. We have 10 member schools that are part of the center right now. The way that we're tackling the distance is through mobile trailers, asynchronous curriculum, but really the vision was to provide the center as the hands-on competency experience. So we're visioning, and we have one example when we've tried with our OneOak Day, of bringing students in on a particular day and exposing them as much as possible to the events and to the actual workforce needs and to the actual people that are in the field that really makes an impression on these students when they're standing in front of somebody who's actually performing that duty and that job. So we want to emulate that. We want to get into certifications. We want them to come into the CT Center, complete their certificate, leave with that experience, enter the workforce, look to stack those certificates later on, continue their career as needed. It's that jump start. Our kids are ready. Our high school is changing its model to go to more of a block model so that they get a lot of their required classes in by the start of their junior year, so we can start being more flexible and adaptable to getting high school kids into these centers and on those pathways, getting credits and getting workforce ready at an earlier age. And a lot of these programs are, again, designed for the same thing, work-based learning coordinator, which is a full-time position now at the center. They're, again, that liaison, that conduit between industry and this building so that we can stay on top of those needs. Cooperative work experience is the same thing. There's students that are out actually working while in high school in practical experiences. That is an expanding program in many ways. We want to take it to the next level with apprenticeships and more directly aligned to the career that they believe they're going toward. And Golden Path Solutions is obviously a partner in the state, and they are that database of alignment. A student completes competencies, they're part of that. As an employer, you're able to access that, find students that have an interest in the areas that you're looking for, have completed some competencies, and by all means, reach out and communicate to them. We still believe that that's one of the challenges we have, is that communication piece. We have a lot of high school students, as much as we try to expose them to, don't really have that definitive plan. And we just need to keep working on that and keep developing those opportunities. We hope Golden Path will be part of that. We're very proud of our partners that have been part of this process. They're prominently displayed throughout of our Bakken Area Skills Center on our digital signage and also our other signage in our main concourse area. This is a building you want to walk in and you want to see a lot of workforce, post-secondary components of it. It's not going to look like your typical K-12 school building in that sense. So we have a ways to go, but we're very proud of what this is. And again, we're starting to see some of those utilizations and discussions moving forward. Post-secondary is a big partner. Again, our tagline for a long time is we are the largest community in North Dakota without a post-secondary presence in our community. That provides some unique challenges in a lot of different ways related to workforce, not having that post-secondary. We want to provide some of that through this center, but also have the mobility and the nimbleness to be able to adapt and have that workforce component of it. So we are going to partner with post-secondary, had great collaboration so far. BSC right now has their operator class going. It started yesterday at Center, 10-day class that was brought through industry. And those are the examples of what we talk about with a partnership, that we want our partners to lead. What do you need? We'll facilitate that. Now our job next is to get that down to the K-12 level. We want to have that operator pathway so it builds into that adult piece. There should be a synergy between the two, and there's no reason that there shouldn't be. So activities, again, we're proud of the T4 events that we started in Watford City that are now going across the state. Very hands-on in nature, getting in front of workforce. We did do our One Oak Day on May 2nd, which we want to be a kind of a sample pilot of what we'd like to see with multiple partners. It's great to get in front of a group of students for 20 minutes and talk about industry. If you have a hands-on day in a center, bring your equipment in, bring your professionals in, have them actually hands-on experience. You're going to be 10 times more as far as successful with their engagement. I don't think there's any question about it. It was a great event. We're going to learn from it. We're going to emulate more of these and give opportunities for our partners to come in and be part of in front of our students in a very meaningful way. I know I'm running out of time, but this was exciting here. I know Ron Ness many years ago got us connected with Hobbs, New Mexico. We wanted to emulate that as far as what we do with our center. Very energy-based, but very broad in nature. A group went to Ponca City in Hobbs, New Mexico, came back with ideas about the Career Tech Centers, how they operate, and what we can emulate with ours. It is a K-12 CT center. Our vision from 2015 was not just to be a K-12 CT center. It was going to be a collaboration of workforce, post-secondary. Hobbs is a great example of that. We want to partner with them, continue to partner with them to reach some of our goals. So we're excited about some of those partnerships. And you can see in the picture, Williston State, BSC, Train ND, all of them were on the trip with McKenzie County Economic Development. There was about a dozen people, 2 of them from our regional center, engaged in activities. So we're all in. We just need the help now to start emulating some of those ideas that the Permian Strategic Partnership has done in the Permian Basin. We can do some of those same things with this mechanism we have. So looking forward, again, some nice pictures of industry coming in for the classes, standing in front of students, across from students, talking about how this applies to workforce. It's the next level of that engagement we believe that's going to hopefully have a meaningful impact. Diversity, again, the kids, there's nothing more exciting than to walk in a building and see students engaged in these type of activities. It's always fun to see students in classes, but when you walk through a center and they're all hands-on, and when they know it's something related to their future, they are engaged. As hard as it is to engage high school students at times, you'd be surprised it's not that hard when they have a relevancy that they feel like what they're doing now is going to be connected to part of what they want to do in the future. And the one common ground we found with whether it's our private school students, homeschool students, or otherwise, all parents want their students to be self-sufficient and have good employment. That's the common ground. We think that our Bakken Area Skills Center is going to be the conduit to bring those worlds together and opportunities that we want to cultivate. So we're excited about that moving forward. The last one, I don't have time, but if you want to reach out for partnerships or otherwise, please let us know. We very much want to continue to pursue those opportunities, and we're simply looking forward to a bright future. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Steve, and just thanks for your leadership out in Watford City. I think the hands-on, the relevant education that those K through 12 students are receiving, you know, it's truly innovative here in North Dakota, and it's something that certainly resonates with our industry. So thank you for your leadership. It's actually a great segue as we welcome our next guest as we think about that continuum from middle school to high school to higher education. Our next presenter and our final presenter is no stranger to this crowd, Brent Sanford, who the last time was on this stage was serving as our 38th Lieutenant Governor, and a great Lieutenant Governor he was. 2 years after serving at the Petroleum Council trying to crack a different code, which was the code of how we utilize immigration as part of the workforce solution, Brent joined Bismarck State College in the Office of Workforce and Economic Development, and we're really grateful and excited for him to be in higher education. So with that, welcome, Brent, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Kevin. I have to point out that it's one of the projects I'm working on, but yes, I'm consulting for Bismarck State College. I'm here to help. I'm helping them with setting up what's called the Office of Workforce and Economic Development. And I'm here to give the Bismarck State Polytechnic update. People ask me what does the Polytechnic mean? So that's part of what I'm here today to talk about. Polytechnic basically is stacking certificates into associates, into bachelor degrees, and providing that lifelong learning, providing those trained employees that you all are looking for. So Bismarck State Poly has a great story to tell. You'll see that they're up 6.14% for the spring. They're up 8% in credit hours. We're not seeing this across higher ed. So the enrollment is at a good point. Liking to point out that there's 1,337 students with that 3.0 GPA here at fall of 2023. They also like to point out at Bismarck State we have the most freshman students. So Bismarck State has a good quantity of that future workforce. The strategic focus for Bismarck State, in particular for the Office of Workforce and Economic Development, it sounds similar to if you're listening to the governor candidates and the congressional candidates today. We're feeding, powering, and defending the world here in North Dakota, and Bismarck State's playing a big part in that. The agriculture and the energy collide in areas that we all know and love, of ethanol, of hydrogen now, of the different areas where these processes are needing to have trained employees, these processing plants, and that's what Bismarck State's good at. The cybersecurity and defense as well. The automation, the IT, the cyber, that's all important for all these different careers of the future. And again, Bismarck State is taking a leading role in that area. So the Polytechnic facility update is something for those of you that are hiring employees in North Dakota. A lot of you in the room have hired Bismarck State grads. And if you've been to the campus lately, you'll notice that there's a new facility that's growing beside the National Energy Center for Excellence, that we've all had our events at, with the great view of the Missouri River, and that's called the Polytechnic facility. You'll see inside AI, virtual reality labs. There's a dirty lab, there's a clean lab, and the dirty lab is for more of the equipment that's going to be coming from outside and used outside. A lot of flex space available for that type of equipment. A large theater, so to have events like this, we'll be able to have another choice in Bismarck for that. And again, see some of that nice space that'll be available. So that's, luckily for us, that we're looking at an opening in December of this year for the Polytechnic facility. So next time we have a presentation of this group, we hopefully have more information of what actually is being delivered. This is a slide that those of us that are employers in the energy industry know this very well. The 721 means 7 of the future jobs will require no undergrad, no postgraduate work. Seven of those jobs will be high school grad or up to 2-year associates. So where the Polytechnic comes in is providing those certificates to high school students, certificates to those that are looking to better themselves for the workforce, and the associate's degree programs that are here today. But with the Polytechnic focus, Bismarck State is also able to provide the 4-year degrees called Bachelor of Applied Science. So if you have the 2-year degree associates, you can add on top with the Bachelor of Applied Science. There have now been 4 Bachelor of Applied Science degrees that are approved by the State Board of Higher Ed, and looking towards a lot more of those. So important to note, this is something that we're going out and trying to explain more of this to those influencers in the high schools, to those parents, to the kids themselves, that 7 out of 10 jobs in the future are not going to be requiring that undergrad degree or that postgrad degree. So it's legit to be looking at some of these career paths that we have, and they're besides being very well paying. So what's the challenge? Why are we hiring consultants at Bismarck State like myself to help with moving this forward, Office of Workforce and Economic Development? We have a serious concern in the fact that at times when our energy industry has hiring needs like no other, the workforce challenge is hitting us really hard in the fact that there's less enrollment in these programs. So the why and the what. The problem is our critical industries in North Dakota are needing more workforce, and the talent pipeline is weaker than usual. Solution: we're going to set up this Office of Workforce and Development. The 5 bullet points at the bottom are the initiatives: more public-private partnerships, aligning the Bismarck State, the educational programs to what the workforce needs, leveraging that Polytechnic mission again, as we spoke of earlier. And the big one is driving that talent pipeline and developing that talent pipeline, so we'll get into that in a minute. But it's a new word that I've learned with the pipelines that we all know and love from energy, but the talent pipeline is my focus today, and is Bismarck State Polytechnic's focus. The headwinds are high in energy, so again, this is a very high priority for Bismarck State in helping the energy industry. We're reaching down into that talent pipeline to the K-12 and all the new CTE centers like what Dr. Holen just presented, making sure that we're aligned, that we're in sync, so that these programs that are being able to be offered from Bismarck State can be offered as necessary, as required, as asked for at the local level in the K-12 or CTE. And I have to tell you, a lot of that is based on what the employers ask for. So specific examples: One Oak asking for operator training in Watford City, and Dr. Holen's ready to provide that. One Oak's ready to help with what the program looks like, but it helps them onboard employees and get that training done closer to where the plants are. So the industry focus is very important. One of the ways that we deliver the information and receive information back is a very strong connection to industry at Bismarck State and what's called business industry leadership teams, built teams. One of them is Energy Connections team, and you'll see some of those acronyms up there. We've got One Oak, we have HES, and so we've got partnerships, and we've got your needs being heard. If there's more, if there's any of you that are interested in being part of a built team for energy, please let me know. It's very valuable expertise and advice coming through there. Energy degrees. There's a lot of degrees offered. There's the top BAS degrees are the ones that are 4-year degrees. So you develop your career through one of the degrees on the bottom. That's the 2-year associates, and then you can move on to the Bachelor of Applied Science for promotion opportunities, for further education opportunities. The instrumentation and controls degree in the middle is the one that has the most students going into it. There's 100+ students in that program. That's where people are hired out of to work at power plants, to work at whether it's a coal plant, ethanol plant, gas plant. So we've got all these other degrees offered, that looking for more, for developing that talent pipeline and get some more of these degrees filled for those of you that are needing to be hiring in the future. Path forward strategies is, again, a workforce and economic development focus. we're looking at government and industry collaboration. So I'm coming in not from a government person, but more from an industry person and local government in the past, trying to help those that are in higher ed with how do we continue that dialogue with not only government but industry. And the big word up there, talent pipeline development, that's our main focus. So again, at the end of the day, the goals are workforce solutions and private sector engagement. And with that, thank you. And there is my contact information. A lot of you have my cell phone number, but feel free to write that down. And we'll bring the rest of the group up here for our panel. Thank you very much for being here and participating.
All right, well, we're going to grab a seat here quick and settle in. So I think we're going to, first of all, thank you to each of you for sharing your insights and your expertise. You're all, no doubt, leaders in your specific areas, and I think it's very special to have that kind of experience and knowledge shared with us, so thank you very much for that. We're actually going to start right where we left off, so I'm going to kick this off with the former Lieutenant Governor here. And a quick story, this is very exciting for me because about a year and a half ago, Ron Ness asked me if I would serve on a workforce panel at the Watford City annual meeting, hosted by none other than the Lieutenant Governor at the time, and he roasted me. In fact, his first question ended with, "Now, how did you screw that up, Kevin?" So the tables have turned. This is great. But I think the first thing we want to start off with is in higher education, we've been talking a little bit about this concept of grand energy and how higher education can come alongside industry much more closely and intentionally. And that's something we've been talking a little bit about, Brent. And as you moved into this role, the other thing we really visited a lot about was how do we connect the dots between higher education and the needs of industry? So I think the first question, maybe just tell us a little bit about how you and Bismarck State College are thinking about connecting the dots between industry and higher education, specifically with how we align our programming with the workforce needs, the highest demand jobs, and just how Bismarck State fits into this concept of grand energy.
All right, thanks, Kevin. I think the question I roasted you with was, why don't we have a petroleum engineering or engineering program on the western part of the state?
You did, that was it.
Figure that out at the Board of Higher Ed, right? So with this new position at Bismarck State, with looking at Bachelor of Applied Science degrees, I guess you can throw that back at me. And we just need to get one approved through the Chancellor down here in the front row. So I guess that's back at Danita, Kevin, State Board of Higher Ed, and Chancellor. But all kidding aside, so a grand energy concept for those the rest of you that aren't from North Dakota, we have Grand Sky, we have Grand Farm, and so Grand Sky is in Grand Forks, and that is the UAS and the defense and the autonomy programs all coming together, and it's state government supporting private industry, supporting the Air Force Base and UND. Grand Farm is Fargo-based, and it's not just NDSU, but it is partnering with NDSU, with the dominance in agriculture as NDSU shows. It's partnering with those ag manufacturers that are in the valley, and it's partnering with, obviously, state government. And so what does grand energy look like? And energy is so broad, and the lignite people think one way, the oil people think one way, obviously the wind and solar people think another way. Clean Sustainable Energy Authority is one. I see Senator Patton out here in the audience, and that's something the legislature has done, putting together a funding mechanism, hundreds of millions of dollars for innovative energy programs that are led through private sector development. And Bank North Dakota will help with loans, or there's grants that are funneling through Clean Sustainable Energy Authority, and that is Renewable Council, Lignite Council, Oil and Gas Council. So we've got pieces. We've got funding through Clean Sustainable. We have excellence of research through the Energy Environmental Research Center at UND. Where Bismarck State fits into this, I believe, is in workforce. Kevin and I were on a panel for Envision 2035 as one of the Chancellor's initiatives going forward of how does higher ed plot themselves into the future. And what we heard, Danita was on one of these too, what we heard was, I think it was Brent from Hess said, you know what, we're innovating as industry. We need your help as higher ed with workforce development. And so if Grand Energy is going to have a workforce component and talent pipeline development, I would say that's where Bismarck State is willing to jump in. And we're going to have a facility with that Polytechnic building. We already have the National Energy Center of Excellence. And so Bismarck State is in the business of helping energy, but if it's going to have more firepower, it's going to have to be all of us coming together, and private sector and legislature and the NDSU, UND, the rest of the system coming together. And I think future is bright. But I think the time is now for us to kick up Grand Energy and make it something great.
So thank you, Brent. I want to back up further on the talent pipeline and look at K-12. And I appreciate what you had mapped out. I was talking with Gary Kessler this morning, and he said North Dakota is this superpower state. And I hadn't necessarily thought about that, superpower. And yet, as we talked about it further, you have agriculture and energy and possibly a third area of technology that is fueling North Dakota. We are a superpower nationally, and with those, we are a superpower globally. So I'm curious, how do you instill that into our K-12 students, both out in the West, where we see that, but also across the whole state?
Yeah, I think it's a multifaceted event, and I stood in front of our T4 event, as I have the last 5 years, and speaking to the students, and honestly, you look out at those students and you think back when you're in high school. Otherwise, if you're a high school student in North Dakota right now, the opportunities are immense. And you can imagine just sitting there thinking, we are a superpower. We have opportunities, unemployment. You have the opportunity to go out there and make meaningful employment and lifestyle and otherwise. So the opportunities are there. I think it's connecting the dots a little bit more too on the communication piece. I think we need to integrate the worlds together a little bit better. We do find that we can use the same language. We can collaborate with workforce without being a workforce generator, and then we're not general education. We don't have to lose our scope. We can teach English skills at the same time as making it very workforce friendly. We can use the same language. All of those things reinforce the same skills that they're learning. I think over time we just have been a silo for too long. We're not adapting the curriculum. It's the same skill set that you have to learn. There's no reason why it can't be more meaningful and applied. And I think that we continue to have struggles in this technology world of engaging students at high levels. It's a hard competition right now to engage a student in a K-12 setting, but we have a fighting chance if we make it more relevant, and more of the workforce does build that relevancy in. It builds these meaningful experiences in, and they are going to retain that information. And I think I really do want to see a world where we do need to do a little bit more. We need to go the next step as far as connecting students with the workforce piece. And it's more than, like I said, a lecture in front of them on career day. It is more of an integrated process throughout their 9 through 12, K through 12 experience, and it allows them to make decisions. And the state has been great about adapting, allowing more flexibility in how we can teach K-12 high school education. Now we need to use that, and we need the workforce to do that at the same time.
That's great. Thanks, Steve. So Josh, you made a few comments that I found really interesting, especially as you think about the characteristics of the different generations, and that this younger generation, in fact, does want to work hard, and those who discount that they're just wrong. But I think a big part of that also is Nabors recognizing the need to invest in leadership development trainings. I think that is something that is so unique that I just don't see a lot of in this industry, is companies internally building a leadership university. So I would just love if you could expand on that a little bit more and talk a little bit about what hopefully your goals of that leadership university are, and where you see this growing over the next few years.
Yeah, no, it's something that, excuse me, I think I'm really excited about. I think it's going to be a game changer for us. I hope a lot others in the industry will start to do it as well. But the reason it came to us, and it's been, we've always done some leadership training, safety leadership and things like that they come in for a couple days and then they just leave, and that's again, kind of a check the box. And we never really gave them the tools to be, good leaders and do it over time and come back and reinforce those skills. So this is something where we're gonna make that investment into it. Now it's a two-way street. We're gonna make that investment into our people, and we ask them to commit to embracing those principles and using them when they get out to the rig site. The working on a rig is it's a lot safer than it was in the past. We have a very good safety record, but there are risks out on the rig site. And when we look at our rigs as a single units, you can always tell the best performing, highest standard, safest rigs, they got good leadership. And so if we want to have that consistently across the board, we're going to have to give those tools to our people. So I think we're going to see better performance. I think from safety performance for sure, because they're going to be able to build the good cultures on the rig. We're going to see better operational performance, financial performance. Everything's going to flow through that because, it all starts at leadership. They have, our rig managers have a very difficult job. They've got a 24-hour operation, usually 40, 45 people on the rig at any given time that they're responsible for. It's a big responsibility, but they need the tools to be able to do that the right way. So I think we're going to see a good benefit from it, and also retention. I think we're going to retain a lot more employees if we have good leadership on the rigs. We've always talked about retention. Retention is a big cost for us. It's one of those things that's kind of hard to quantify directly, but I would say anytime we hire somebody, they come out and they leave, per person, you're probably talking $10,000 or more. And if you have, 15, 20% turnover, then that's a huge number. And if we can reduce that, that's good for the business too.
Yeah, absolutely. Creedence has just under 300 employees, and the retention is the key. It costs a whole heck of a lot more just to keep the great talent than try to attract new. But if I could dig in a little bit on this leadership training, as you guys were thinking about this, what advice do you have to maybe folks, business leaders, business owners in the audience? How did you think about developing this program? Was this something that you sought external third-party resources? Was this something that you did internally? Any advice for folks who are trying to think about maybe starting a tool similar to what you have?
Yeah, so we did engage with an external third-party training provider that we've done a lot of work with for years and years and years, and they helped develop it. We kind of gave them our idea of what we wanted to look like, some of the expectations, the learnings that we wanted, the outcomes we wanted from it, and they took that back. They developed that. They have delivered the first one, and they're delivering the second two here this weekend. But then eventually we plan on taking that in-house and doing it ourselves. We've got a full training department that can do that. However, there's a lot of companies that don't have those kind of resources. So there are third parties out there that will help develop these types of leadership programs.
Thank you. When I think of training, retention of employees, the other piece that I think about is their involvement in the community, and how do we make certain that the community is retaining their workforce in addition to the company. And so with that, I have a question for Pat. We had in Stanley, we have 12 to 15 teachers from the Philippines that have been over here for about 18 months. And we, a couple of weeks ago, threw a dinner for them to honor them, to say thank you for serving in our community. And they said it was the first time in 18 months that anyone outside of the school had invited them to do something. And of course, they were gracious for the opportunity to reconnect with people in the community. So I'm curious, what are you seeing as best practices in communities that welcome all employees, no matter where they come from?
Well, thanks, Danita. I love that question because I'm going to tell you that the #1 state migrating to North Dakota is Minnesota. #2 behind that are people from a foreign country. So from my perspective, what I've seen is I had a chance to work with those kids over in Watford City. I'm not there anymore, but the fact that they hosted two cultural food fairs and celebrated the 25 countries that are represented in their community was big. And that wasn't an adult idea. That was led by the students and allowing these students to kind of lead this celebration of culture and allowing these countries to kind of toot their horn, but also just educate their community. So I think there's opportunities to involve students on that. I think that's a fantastic idea, and just teaching them how to be decent human beings and kind of facilitating that journey, and they learn soft skills and all that stuff, but it also kind of helps them figure out where they fit in this world, I think. So to me, I think it's all about showmanship and hospitality, and it's really at the end of the day what got me to North Dakota.
Thank you. And this is a follow-up question, maybe for Steve. You've had how many nations at Watford City again? Refresh me.
Yeah, back in the 2013-14 range or otherwise, we had all 50 states and 20 different countries represented.
So what were some practical things that you did in the school to help the students? And the reason I ask that is that when I'm talking to some faculty at different schools, they're saying that in the younger grades, the students are very welcoming. But as they move into high school, they don't have the gift of hospitality developed yet. So I'm curious, what are some things that you've done, even in the educational environment, to create a more welcoming North Dakota?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it is a challenge. And when you talk about high school and adolescence, I mean, there's a whole other challenge there, and I don't know, they're not as moldable in that sense. They're not quite as flexible. They've already, gone through some of those processes. But I think it's just more of engagement. We've spent a lot of time in our district just getting all students engaged in an activity of some kind. I think that you got to build the culture to feel like they're part of something. It's a significant challenge when you have the mobility rates that we do. A lot of students, as a protection mechanism, don't want to do anything because you feel like as soon as you get involved with something, boom, they're gone, and they don't like that feeling. So you really have to try to pull them out, try to get engaged in a variety of activities. So I think that helps at the high school level because then they're seen as part of a team. They're forced to make social interactions that just those type of activities are designed for. Why we have them in K-12 is to build some of those soft skills. And I think the more you could do that, as Pat mentioned, some of those cultural events, and I think it takes place over time. And it's not even from other countries, but it's from other states where it's just hard to integrate and build that ability to bring those students in. And I think it's just, if you try to force it, it doesn't work real well. You build environments where it naturally can take place. Students will do the right thing if they're put in that environment. I think we just have to have more activities. But even going to the workforce piece, when you have companies coming in, more hands-on, it does bring that interaction. If they're just in a classroom all day, sitting, going from class to class, it doesn't provide them those opportunities to build some of those skills. So I think that's just the lesson, is to keep them busy, get them involved, get at least one activity they can be involved in some way.
Pat?
So when they hosted that cultural food fair, I was getting text messages, "Are you coming?" I'm like, yes, I am coming. So I drove 3 hours to go experience that. But what I was really impressed with what Watford and the school did over there is they had 13 foreign exchange students that were part of a program. Laura Sanford did a wonderful job with that. I actually pulled Aiden Pelton and Nana from France to the governor's office to have a conversation with multiple people at the state, which helped kind of, him win that Education Summit Award. But I had a chance to talk to Nana from France, and I said, when you first found out you were coming to Watford City, what was your thought? She said, I was scared to death. I heard it was just prairie and cows. And I said, you've been here for a while. What's your opinion now? She goes, I love it, and I don't want to leave. What I think is brilliant about just this foreign exchange student program is that we had 13 foreign exchange students go back to their countries with a way different narrative about North Dakota than when they came in. And I know that they won a national award for just the work that they were doing with those kids. So to me, it was just fantastic and inspiring.
Great conversation around K-12. I think we'll go back to higher ed for a moment here. For a lot of employers in the room, one of the things we always think about is how do we get the message about all the amazing careers in oil and gas sooner in the education cycle, all the way to middle school. You know, Brent, as Lieutenant Governor, you worked on both the K-12 budget, you worked on the higher ed budget, and since you're sitting next to a K-12 professional, what are some of the ways that you think higher education, whether it's BSc or just higher education in general, can work with K-12 closer to start educating students earlier on about all these incredible career paths in energy? They're high paying, they're great jobs, a ton of technology, right? And if we don't, in energy, do it, every other industry will be doing it and beating us to it.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. So embarking on that question within higher ed, you can imagine you get a lot of different answers. But as good as Bismarck State is with engaging industry, the Dean of Energy and Automation is great, by the way. Alicia is great. But she said, you know what? Our target advertising is age 17 to 24. And that's it. And so as we were talking through it, she said, yes, we need to get earlier into the age groups, into the junior high, into elementary. And I said, how about the influencers? She said, yes, we do send the parents. But the teachers are a huge influence on what kids see as the next steps. And so, and Steve is probably the one to answer all these questions. But as a parent, as someone that's been an employer, as someone that, yes, has been on the budget side of, don't forget CTE, by the way, too. So you have K-12, and you have CTE in the middle, and you have higher ed, and we all have our job to do. And it seems like there's these rigid walls in between, but really it's one spectrum. And Kevin talks about this, of we need to just connect the dots. But it's from a kid, from whatever age group where they start looking at what do I want to be when I grow up, all the way through to gainful employment. And it might be as an adult to going back to school. But how is this continuum managed in a better way? And communication about what's available is very key. And industry has to be involved in that. And so Steve mentions T4. So you've got tech tool trades. I mean, they're coming in and showing all this equipment to kids from, what's the youngest in elementary and junior high? 6th grade. And so then they're able to see this different equipment that's actually used at work during the day. And it creates a different curiosity. When my son was first in the Bismarck school system here, he's a sophomore now, but as a 6th grader, he came home and said, did you know I could work in instrumentation and controls and make $60,000 a year, Dad? And I said, yes, I do, Nick. I just had a briefing from CTE and from the Career Academy at Bismarck. But how did you learn that? Well, we had a tour. You know, so these kids are very, very open-minded at a younger age than we think. And looking at them, you might not think it's sinking in. What we hear is that it's tough to do the field trips with the younger kids. But guess what? They are paying attention. They are seeing. And so the effort will pay off. But just to fast forward to more of a conclusion here. So there's been an acknowledgement that, and Dr. Holen would second this, that we can't rely on the one guidance counselor in every high school of presenting all of these opportunities from all of you as employers and all the industries. And so there has to be a better way of doing this. And we also can't spend all of our days roaming through the halls and making a pitch from all of our different companies. But the CTE, one of their new innovative programs they'll be looking at more funding for is work-based learning coordinators. And so they are actually people from industry that are tying in with whether it's internships or apprenticeships or whatever it might be, where there's a connection to those kids in the schools back to industry. And it's a lot more numbers than just our raw number of guidance counselors that's out there. So we have to rethink this, because we can't expect that Dr. Holen's going to be able to hire 5, 10, 15 career counselors, right? I mean, this has to be something where industry is involved in. And I'm encouraged that the CTE group is looking at this as a statewide program.
I have a follow-up question for Brent, and others may have perspective on this. When we first moved back to North Dakota 10 years ago, May 20th, very clear on that, between Minnesota taxes, so I remember it was May 20th. I initially served on the North Dakota Economic Development Foundation, and at that time, severe work shortage, and we talked about 2 marketing campaigns. One marketing campaign was external to North Dakota The other marketing campaign was internal to North Dakota. And because North Dakotans aren't necessarily the best advocates for North Dakota. We're kind of, the first thing we talk about is the weather, or we talk about some negatives. So we talked about that we needed to have an internal marketing campaign also to build up North Dakota's self-esteem. So I'm curious in your conversations, what side of conversations that you've had regarding both external marketing as well as internal marketing.
Yeah, thank you, Danita. And in these programs they have different names and different faces. And I would say 23 or 4 years ago, I was in Colorado, and it was I don't even know the name of the program, but Commerce was in Denver, and they had gotten a hold of me and my boss because we both were UND grads. And it was a come home type campaign. It was a welcome home type campaign, and this was pre-Bakken, so there wasn't a lot to go home to, and that's what my boss said. It was like, what would we go home to? Well, we'd like to have you. Our population is declining. And he said, what are you doing about that? So there was reach outs. It was active from the Commerce Department of reaching out to expatriates from here, right? So North Dakotans moving away. Fast forward to the Bakken. So Mayor Riley is here, Daniel Stenberg's here, Economic Development, Watford City. You're trying to figure out what do we do to fill all these jobs, and people are coming in droves after the financial crisis. And Economic Development Director Gene Beater said, now we're in an infrastructure crisis because we have all the people and nowhere to put them, and there's not enough roads for them. There's not education for them or activities, and so community infrastructure became a big deal. So one thing to keep in mind is you have to be a welcoming place and have those facilities available. The Rough Rider Center is one. I mean, that was an effort for families to view it as family-focused, and we're investing in you, investing in families, so there's a place for the activities to happen. The child care, the recreation opportunities, all that. So the community development has to be there. But it's really not that easy to go out and recruit a family to come in to North Dakota when unemployment is 2%. So that was something to remember, is unemployment was 10% 15 years ago. And so people were coming here at a time when the Bakken was picking up with unemployment everywhere else. Now it's not. Pat could tell you there's 100 people getting a check today probably from work from him, from unemployment. And so that's not the answer today. And it's the same in other states. So this talent pipeline development we're talking about is actually more of an internal, and so getting the word to the kids earlier in school, getting the word to the parents, getting the word to the teachers, making sure there's communication of what is available. I mean, it's very key to making sure that we're doing the most with the people that actually live here. And then another whole question and answer would be talent pipeline net in-migration from outside of here. And that's a very difficult conversation when it's 2% unemployment the rest of the country.
And the weather. Weather's the other part.
Yeah.
Josh, I want to go back to you as the industry leader here. You've talked about a few of the retention strategies that you've used to cultivate leadership within your company, but maybe if you could just share, it's a little bit of a two-part question here, but if you could share, what are some meaningful strategies that Nabors is using to attract talent, whether within the industry or out of the industry, to come to oil and gas? What are some meaningful strategies that you're using that you're finding success with?
Yeah. And by the way, North Dakota, Williston area is not the only place that has trouble like getting people to go over there. I went to, when I moved to Midland, Texas, I was talking to somebody and they said, well, just make sure your wife flies in at night. And I said, well, geez, that's not a really good way to like sell your community, So it's there is an internal sell that you got to do. But anyway, sorry, I thought I'd say that. But no, I mean, from a recruitment standpoint, we do recruitment drives all over the country. I know our team here, they were down in California a few months ago doing a recruitment at one of the military bases in California. We do recruitments for the Bakken, I mean, here in North Dakota, Minnesota, Colorado, Wyoming. Down south, we'll do it all the way Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi. So, I mean, we're trying to, I think what we're trying to look at more is more of the technical schools, where we haven't really been at in the past. So we're really looking at the technical schools and where we can attract talent there. Separating veterans, they're a very good fit for our industry. They're disciplined. They know long hours, hard work. Yeah, so I think that's one area that we're really going after is the technical schools. I heard you talk about, automation and controls. I mean, we need automation, instrumentation technicians, automation and controls technicians. I mean, that's one of the areas that we really struggle with in finding good talent. And we can get somebody in there and we pay a very competitive wage, and they work basically 6 months a year because they're on two off. And if they want to work more and earn overtime, they're happy. We're happy to have them do that too. So, I mean, they could go that and come out at $100,000 a year if they want to. Yeah. Well,
I think that's great insight. And, for those employers out in the audience, one of the great things about North Dakota is we have two amazing Air Force bases. We've got the Minot Air Force Base with 2 legs of the nuclear triad. We have the Grand Forks Air Force Base operating drone missions. And so those, to your point, as an industry, I think we do have to start looking outside of the box to where we typically recruit from and where we're typically looking for talent. And I think, the military community, there's a lot of folks that come here and fall in love with North Dakota, and they realize it's a safe place to raise a family, access to really high-quality education, great communities, welcoming communities. And there's a lot of people who end up wanting to stay. And so I think that's a really great insight and advice to the folks in the audience is alternative places to look. Although I do want to ask one more question, because I sense this is the direction the industry is really going. When we simply cannot find the people, we're forced to turn to automation. So I would love to hear a little bit, as the world's leading drilling company, what are some of the ways that you're looking at automation as a supplement to the workforce challenges?
Yeah, I think we are the leader in automation in the drilling industry. I mean, we're actually up here. We're bringing some automation systems to get people off the rig floor, where the majority of incidents happen on a rig is on the rig floor. So we've got some technology that we can remove people from the rig floor. We have a fully automated drilling rig in the Permian Basin in West Texas right now. We can drill the entire well without putting one person on the rig floor. And we intend to, I hope in 10 years, every one of our rigs will have that. Now, a lot of people say, well, does that mean you're not going to have any people on the rig? No, that's not the case. We'll still have the people on the rig, but we'll reskill them into higher value tasks like being automation technicians and doing more high-level maintenance and things like that. But yeah, I mean, we have to look at automation. That is the future, and I think we're all in on that, and we're going to continue down that path.
That's wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there some questions that you'd like to ask each other as we wrap up our time here today?
Yeah, I didn't touch on the retention piece, and one thing I just quickly say that we're doing differently than we have in the past is to try to retain our workforce is to engage with them. Our industry hasn't typically been very engaging with our workforce in the field. And so we're trying to do more of that to where we can actually talk to our workforce, explain to them, give them some context around the decisions that we make, the actions that we take. And they want to hear that, and they want to understand that, and they want to get behind that, but we have to engage them more. So that's something that we're really trying to do.
That's great. Pat, I know you have tremendous excitement and enthusiasm for North Dakota and North Dakota workforce. And one thing that your agency offers is a lot of access to really great data that we as employers can use to make good decisions. So maybe you could just touch on some of the data that you house and that you study and that you offer to the public and employers.
Yeah, thank you. So we have labor market information, and our team puts together an oil and gas report every month. And I talked to them before I came here, and I said, what message would you like me to deliver to oil and gas? And we send out surveys, and that information is confidential. We'd certainly like for you guys to be a little bit more engaging with providing that information back to our team. But talked to Ron and Riva today, and if we'd be completely willing to get everyone on a call to kind of go through that data and make sure that you understand it. It's 46 pages every month. So it's just fantastic information. We've got a labor market information webinar that we put out there and try to pull in the League of Cities and, try to pull more mayors in and city and county commissioners to understand that data and make decisions around data.
That's great.
As we're wrapping up, I want to put an exclamation point behind something you said, Josh, which is leadership. And leadership is a competitive asset for any company, whether it's a company or whether it's a state, wherever it's at. Any investment in leadership will develop rewards. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for the example.
Maybe as we wrap up here, we can just send it down the line here really quick. Obviously, for the audience, I mean, we really, truly have the leaders in their specific industries here. And I think this is a great opportunity. If there's a way in which that your organization can engage, maybe you could just share with the audience, what is a way that either you would like them to engage with your organization or vice versa? And for Josh, as the private sector, any final words of wisdom as employers think about their workforce strategies?
Certainly follow us at Job Service North Dakota. We're going to adapt, we're going to persevere, elevate the brand, all that stuff, and just got an amazing team. And we're down 40% staffing over the last decade. We had to close 7 offices back in 2016, but I will tell you that this team that I get to represent, they ride for the brand, and that brand is North Dakota. But I wanted to throw one plug in for work-based learning, because to support these educators and all that type of stuff, we hosted a work-based learning webinar, and I know that employers are afraid of workforce safety and insurance, don't want to violate any rules, afraid of North Dakota Department of Labor, don't want to violate any rules. So we went to those folks and asked them to be a part of this webinar. So they're a part of this webinar. I will tell you right now that we've been on national CTE calls because every state around the nation's asking, how do you guys even get that many agencies together to come together? And it's because we care about our youth and we have the ability to work as one, and we're very proud of that. So if I could have anything from any of you out there, I would ask you to open your place of employment to be a part of the classroom.
Yeah, I would just say we have a great industry, and we work in a great state. This is a great place to work. Nabors has been in the Bakken for decades, and we plan to be here for decades to come. And we want to do our part and be able to join with all of your organizations, and anything we can do to help and be part of that, please let us know. We got a great team here locally and out here in the audience, and I know they're willing to participate. So yeah, we like I said, we're going to be here for a long time. So we want to hire local. We want to hire people out of North Dakota, and yeah, I'm excited for the future here.
Yeah, and I agree. I think collaboration is the key, and again, breaking down some of those barriers and just getting involved. The next level, I mean, it is about capital investment. It's all those things. I think the next level is going to the collaborations, which is just basically face-to-faces. And it's hard to take your workforce and send them to a central location and have them in front of students for a period of time. I know there's a loss on that, but I think the return on the investment is going to be there. I think if that investment in time and effort is made in a meaningful way, I think that return is going to start to come. And I think that's what we're looking for when we have these regional centers, is we put that investment in, not so much always capital, but time and effort. I think you're going to start to see the retention piece and some of those returns on that. So I think that's the next level we're excited about, and we're looking forward to working with everybody on thinking outside the box, which is what we've been forced to do for the last many years.
All right, I have a minute left, or do you get some of it?
Bring us home.
So the collaboration with everybody on the stage is important, and all of you in the audience right now as employers, as the energy industry, kudos, and all of us want to help with those workforce solutions. And I've got a real life case study here. There's 2 students out of eligible 15 seats available for automation and robotics at Bismarck State this year. 2.
Wow.
So we need to get the word out. And so by doing that, I would encourage you to be working with the Bakken Area Skills, with Dr. Holen, with the CTE centers that's starting Williston, Dickinson. Make sure you are there, you're investing some grants, you're letting your employees be part of it so that these high school kids see what these opportunities and these degrees are. Because I agree with you, it's all going to automation. And so what a frustrating thing for the Dean of Energy and Automation that there's 2 out of 15 slots filled. But we need to get that word out. And higher ed as well. I mean, we also want to be engaging down the chain with CTE centers, with high school, with those influencers, with the teachers, with the parents. And then, again, working on that talent pipeline of what does net in-migration look like? How do we get more students to fill jobs? How do we get more employees? So there's a lot of work to do. But again, thank you all for being here, and thanks, Kevin and Danita, for hosting a great panel.
And I want to say thank you to Pat. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Brent. This has been excellent information. As we talked early on, there is not as many people in the room as Ron Ness planned. However, this whole event has been recorded. It will be available in maybe 3 to 4 weeks. And this is an excellent session, incredible insights to share with friends, colleagues, employers on some very practical strategies. So thank you for being here and investing in this industry and in North Dakota. Let's give everybody a hand.
Thank you all, and thank you to the presenters, not just this panel this afternoon, but the previous presenters and panelists as well. Also, a big thanks to our sponsors. Let's give them another round of applause, and a lot of energy putting this conference on. So the social is about to begin next door, but remember at 5 o'clock in the exhibit hall, we're going to take a few minutes to acknowledge and appreciate what it's taken to produce 5 billion barrels of Bakken oil. So make sure you join us next door for that. And make sure you're one of the first 1,000 there to get a commemorative gift. We look forward to seeing you back in this room tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Don't forget the kickoff tomorrow morning. Be here for that. It's very special, patriotic, very important part of the industry's day. So we'll see you back here for breakfast at 7, first session at 8 o'clock. Thanks again. Have a great and safe evening.